Beautiful. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Port Jackson Securities webinar. I'd like to thank Andrew Grove for joining us today from CHZ Resources as we dive into a bit of gold discovery in Senegal. Looking very forward to the presentation that we have. As always, people, we'll save questions from the live audience at the end. So if you have questions in between, please go down to the tab on the right and send in your questions. We'll get through to answering those. We've got a few people in here today, so if you don't get through to all of them, I'm sorry, but we'll try and do our best. But Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, and welcome everybody to the presentation on CHZ. We'll go through a presentation and we'll open up to questions there afterwards. So CHZ is an Australian listed gold explorer developer focused in Senegal in West Africa. There's our disclaimer as read. So we've got a number of projects in Senegal. Our main project being the Diamba Sud project in eastern Senegal, near the Mali border, and in the neighbourhood of some very world-class ore bodies being Lulu, Gonkoro and Fekola, which lie just across the border in Mali. We're well funded with $8 million in cash at the end of the last quarter. And we've been focusing the exploration of Diamba Sud and have just recently completed about 30,000 metres of drilling over the two discovery areas, Area A and Area D. Those drill results are coming in as we speak, and we'll use those to deliver a maiden resource estimate Q4 this year, which we hope that will demonstrate the strong value of the company and the asset that we've identified here in Diamba Sud. We quickly go through the company. Myself, Managing Director, CEO, I've got a geological background and spent 14 years at Macquarie Bank and been in and out of Africa in various roles over my experience. We're ably led in country by our exploration manager, Gareth O'Donovan, and our Director of Business Development, Boubacar Tierra. Gareth essentially lives in Senegal with his wife, and he actually worked there in the early 90s with Anglo American, and Boubacar was involved in the sort of licensing and development of the Mako Gold project for Toro Gold, which now resides within Resolute Mining. And the board is led by Mark Connolly, our chairman. You know, he's very well known in the Australian mining sector. He's had a lot of West African experience, overseeing the development of a couple of gold mines and the commercialisation of a couple of assets, the main one being the sale of Fekola to B2 Gold. Quickly on corporate structure, big run up in mid-2020 when the company identified really high grade near surface oxide mineralisation Area D, and that had a very strong shareholder response, and then we've been doing a lot of work to expand and define that mineralisation. Market cap's about $60 million today. Major shareholders being GP Securities and 1832, which has just fallen below 5%, but are still a strong holder. Senegal, why Senegal? We think Senegal is one of the better West African jurisdictions. It's the most long-running, stable economy. It's got pretty good growth. They understand mining. The president was a geologist, mining engineer. There's been a number of gold mines being developed in the current country recently, a couple of which I was involved with when I was in the banking sector, both of which were funded by external debt, all of which was repaid. Both of them being traded on the market and without any government interference. They're supportive, as I said, and there's also a lot of oil and gas development going on, predominantly with Woodside spending $4.5 billion on their offshore oil development. We zoom back in and have a look at what we've got. We've got over 1,000 square kilometres of tenements and tenement applications. You know, outside of Diamba Sud, they're more grassroots exploration, and we'll be doing some work on those this year, and we expect some of the applications to be granted, but all the focus of the company to date has really largely been on Diamba Sud and around the two high-grade discoveries that we've found. And we like this area. It's getting a lot of attention from external other explorers. It's on a 60 to 70 kilometre strip of Senegal-Mali shear zone rocks. Just, you know, as I said before, neighbouring really world-class ore bodies. and it's been actively explored by Barrick and IAMGOLD around us. So we think there's a lot more discoveries in this region and on our tenement, and we'll get a lot of focus going forward. If we zoom in and have a look at Diamba Sud, the coloured image is our gold auger geochemical anomalism. We acquired the project in 2017, undertook a tenement-wide auger sampling program, which identified very extensive and high-grade auger geochemical anomalies. Outside of that coloured image, the red blobs are Barrick's publicly released gold auger geochemical anomalism and a couple of their prospects. So it's part of a bigger, broad anomalous system, which is pretty interesting, and there's some very strong structural elements to controlling this mineralisation, mainly being the Northern Arc structure, which is mineralised over 15 kilometres. And you can see the proximity of the project to Mali, which is defined by the border and the Gonkoto down in the bottom right-hand corner of the tenement. So, you know, drilling's been focused on our highest grade anomalies, the Area A and Area D, over which we found mineralisation. Area D is typified by a high-grade near-surface oxide mineralisation, and Area A is more fresh rock mineralisation. We'll have a look at that in a second. We've undertaken a bit of metallurgy over both of those prospects, and bottle roll results are averaging 96% recovery, you know, fast, rapid leach kinetics, no evidence of deleterious elements, so we don't think there'll be any issues with processing this ore when we get to that point. And outside of Area A and D, there's a number of high priority targets, and we've done very little drilling outside of that, and we'll start that drilling campaign in October when the dry season starts again. Area A, this is an image of the oxide footprint. You know, it's about 400 by 400 metres with a really high-grade core on the eastern margin. That core is defined by 20 to 40 metres thick, strong, high-grade mineralisation from 10 metres. So the grades sort of average 3 to 10 grams over the whole width. Below which is mineralisation in Area D and Area A is actually confined within a calcareous rock unit, like a limestone. It's brittly deformed, strongly altered, and we believe the higher grades in that area are associated with structures that bring the mineralisation in. We've got you know, we've got a lot more work and a lot more opportunity to expand the resource on that. But we'll have a look at the section in Area A just to highlight the strength of the mineralisation in that oxide, which is up in here. You know, very strong, very high grade, will lead itself to very strong economics and early cash flow from any future operations, which we think we can define here. And below which the mineralisations within the fresh rock. If I go on to just section in the Area A, you can see when we interpret structures intersecting these calcareous rock units, you can get very strong grade and thicknesses. The alteration in the host rock and the structural setting is very similar to that we're seeing in Gonkoto. And that's like a world-class, fairly significant ore body. Area A looks very much like what Barrick's identified over the boundary at their KB West prospect. They're getting sort of 50 odd metre intercepts at 2 grams per tonne, and they've probably defined some reasonable mineralisation there, not that they've published anything. But we do have a good cooperation with the Barrick team on site, and we're sharing technical information and logistics to sort of work out what's happening in the area. But there's a potential to follow these high grade structures. There's a potential to really extend mineralisation. But what we'll do is we'll receive the final data. We're going to do our resource estimate for Q4. We'll start doing some structural studies and more technical geology, and then we'll come back in and drill again here to expand and really expand the resource base here. And if we briefly look at, this is an image of the project area. This is our camp we're building, or nearly constructed. Area D, Area A, they're very close to each other. 7 k's away is the border, which is defined by the Falimi River, which is a water source. Barrick's Gonkoto mine's just over the boundary. We're within 5 kilometres of the major thoroughfare between Mali and Senegal. The local village is about 7 k's over the other side of that road, which we've got a very strong relationship with the local community and very supportive, and we're doing lots of work to sort of maintain that social licence and increase it. But as you can see at the site, there's no people living on it. There's very little land use. There's no artisanal. So we're very lucky in that respect. To impediments to development are very few on this prospect. We'll also start our environmental baseline work on the project in the forthcoming dry season in mid-October, just so we're ready to, when we get to the point that we define a project, that we're ready to go and get application licenses and mining licenses and things. Outside of area A and D, we've identified 10 high priority geochem targets that we'll be doing some work on this season and starting in October. We've done little black dots, if you can see on an image, define our RC drilling outside of area A and D, and they're very few and far between, but we've got some. There's all grade mineralisation scattered throughout the project area. One of the ones examples is area H, which is 1.2 kilometres southwest of area D. We did one single line traverse across a geochem anomaly and defined a mineralised structure that's 10 to 20 metres wide, vertical, grading 2 grams per tonne. There's a lot of walk-up targets to add resources outside the main resource area. And I've put on the map highlighted a couple of the intercepts that Barrick are getting in some of their prospects and their drilling. They're very encouraged by those results, and their Barracks are doing the big holes and drilling furiously away. So look, they think the area's got the potential to host a significant mineralisation. Our view is that it does. Even if it doesn't, I think we're close to defining a standalone operation at this prospect, which we'll do the work to prove. And if we get to that point and Barrick don't want us to do that, then obviously the Barrick's got the capacity to stop us doing that. But if we do, then we'll have a mill in the area, and if Barrick don't find Barrick scale projects, then there is a lot of identified mineralisation that could be potential mill feed in the future. Just broadly stepping out again, you can see this is the 60-70 kilometre strip of Senegal-Mali shear zone rocks in Senegal. Over the other side of the border, the deposits I've mentioned previously, and really the whole area is controlled by us, Barrick and IM Gold. IM Gold have got their Boto Gold project 50 kilometres to the south. They received their mining licence December last year. Gives them a couple of years to develop it. They're doing an access road and village relocation. But overall, IM Gold have got some financial constraints because they're building a $1.2 billion project in Canada at the moment. So they probably don't have the financial capacity to build both at the same time. But broadly, that there may be a larger consolidation potentially on this project area. I should say also the tenement here was relinquished by Barrick and IM Gold, and the local guys picked it up, and Barrick are buying it back. So I've been told. So look, they've got a very strong interest in the area, and look, it's highly prospective, underexplored. Some of the best geology in West Africa. So we're pretty happy to be part of that, and we're making sure that we'll be an integral part of any development scenario that goes along at this part of the world. So in summary, we've identified 2 high-grade bits of mineralisation at Area A and Area D. We drilled those. We should get a resource out in Q4. We'll start drilling on the other prospects at Diamba Sud to show growth in the resources outside of those 2 main areas. We'll come back into those 2 main areas after we've done some geology and some science to demonstrate the resource potential and expand those resources. We'll probably look at what the economics look like on the resource once we receive those, and we're getting ourselves in a position to develop a potential standalone project on this asset. And we believe we could probably frame up a $1 million tonne per annum project for 6 to 7 years over the short term. And that would be enough for a CHZ to make a decision for development, and it's the right scale for a company our size, and funding should be pretty easy with the yearly cash flow from those high-grade areas near surface at Area D. And and the whole area is getting a lot of attention, and Senegal's a great place to do exploration in, and it's a good country. So
you're beautiful.
that was a quick
Beautiful.
summary. Thank you.
No, it's good. It's good. Well, thanks for that presentation. I understand that you also had a bit of a summit you were at the other day, the Precious Metals Summit. How was that, waking up in the morning for yourself?
It was a good summit. We had 3 full days of very good meetings with shareholders and other mining companies, but it was a brutal schedule. It started at 10 p.m. and finished at 6 or 7 in the morning. Just it's a North American time zone, but they sort of had a hybrid session where half of them turned up and half of them were doing virtual. So, but it was very worth doing, and we got in front of some pretty good and sophisticated institutional investors. Beautiful.
I did have a few clients myself turn up then, so it was very well, and you presented very well then too as well. So there's some queries that they do have sometimes is when they're asking it's about geopolitical concerns with mining in Senegal. At the moment, there's been a few other gold companies over there, and as you said, a French colony. But what are your thoughts towards these concerns about mining in Senegal?
Look, I think a lot of investors see Africa as a homogeneous one country when it's not. There's 50 odd countries in the continent. And we've been working in and out of Africa for a long time, so we sort of understand the geopolitical risk. If you don't have had a lot of experience there, sometimes it seems a bit interesting, But been a coup in Guinea just recently. Mali's had a couple just recently, but they haven't stopped any of the mining operations. Very rarely these actions actually interfere with the mining companies and their operations. Because the royalties and the taxes that we pay are very important to the running of these countries. And it's sort of sometimes how they change governments in this part of the world, which is a bit unfortunate for us, but it does paint a bad picture. And look, as I said previously in the presentation, that Senegal is it's the longest running democracy in West Africa. It's all the countries in the world who have embassies have them in Dakar, which is the capital. They're very well structured, well funded country. They sort of I rank them close to that equal or slightly above Ivory Coast. But it's the governance is good, security is good, and they participate in that regional endeavours to get rid of the sort of terrorist activity that's coming in from the north. But so we're happy. We don't have any security issues on site or in Dakar or travelling in between sites. So we're pretty happy with that.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And we understand you've got a few interesting milestones coming up with the first mineral resources from Area A and D. When can we expect to see those sort of results be released, and what's the pathway from there? What's the next step?
Okay, so look, we've still got some assays outstanding, and we released those as we received them. We had one the week before last, which was quite interesting in Area A. We're planning to get the maiden resource out in fourth quarter. It does depend a bit on the speed of the assay returns, which are always a bit slow at the end of the field season. But we'd like October, November to be when we deliver our maiden resource estimate. By that time, we will start drilling again, so we'll get some more news flow out of that. And as I said, we will be looking at some technical studies around A and D to see where we can expand the resource, which we think we can, and then we'll be wrapping some potential economics around that project as it stands to show the market how strong it will be economically, and we believe it'll be really strong economically, just because a lot of the grade sits near the surface in 3D good recovery ore, and we're getting ourselves in a position that we can go through the technical studies on the project to get ourselves in a position for a development decision in 18 months to 2 years' time. So it'll take that time to do all the work we've got to do to get ourselves to that point.
Great, great. And so I understand you're planning to go October back to Senegal, but now it's February. Well, what's going to be happening when you get back there? What's your game plan?
I'd like to go there a lot more frequently, but travel restrictions getting home, particularly in West Australia, where they only allow 250 people a week from international, makes it a little bit more difficult. But we have got a good team in country, and it's ably led by Gareth and Boubacar. But when I get there, they would have been we'd have had the resource out. We'll be looking at our technical studies. We're boosting the team in country to have one team focused on the project development and another one more focused on the regional exploration. So spend a bit of time with those guys and see where they're at with the technical studies and the geology they're putting in to find more resources around Diamba Sud. And so hopefully we'll have some of the applications granted so we can look at more of the regional exploration, so I can spend some time with the guys having a look, guys and girls, what we're finding there. Okay. And so how much more exploration can you go through before you need another couple of raids? Our plans are to advance the development of the project, so that's going to take some capital. You've got a whole bunch of studies that you've got to do outside of drilling, which do cost money, more metallurgy, more geotech, hydro, environmental stuff, so that does take money. So I think we can certainly get through this year comfortably with our current cash balance, but at some point, once we've done our resource and put that out in the market, we're going to have to say, if we're going to get to the decision to the mine point in 18 months, 2 years' time, we're going to need some more capital, and we'll come back to the market once we've at the appropriate time.
Beautiful. Okay. And I understand you've already mentioned IM Gold as well, but is there other gold companies that in Senegal that are your main competitors, and what else is your advantages over them?
Okay, well, on where we are in Diamba Sud, it's largely Barrick and IM Gold. Barrick are very keen, and they're getting a lot of exploration success over the border between Lulu and Gounkoto. So they're taking that enthusiasm into Senegal now, which has been less well explored. But outside of that strip, there's the Mako Shear Zone or Mako Belt. That's got Resolute and Endeavour Mining on it now, and a number of other explorers, Thor and Basari and a few others that, for areas in that part of the world, that's our competitors. But, we've got a fairly big land package under application, so we're hoping to have that granted soon. So it gives us enough runway to do exploration and develop up new prospects and projects to work on, as well as advancing Diamba Sud.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we might go towards the audience at the moment, ask a few questions there. Our first question comes from Jar. He asks, how busy are the labs? Well, I'm sure you might put some insight towards that.
Yeah, look, the labs get very backed up at the end of the field season, which ended in sort of early July. So they have a very big backlog. Most of our assays have been going to SGS and Bamako, and we've sent some assays off to ALS, and they've developed a sample prep lab in Senegal, and I think the analytical work's done in Wagga and Burkina Faso. So they do get backed up. We are getting assays being delivered, but we put a lot of pressure on them. But there's some, Barrick put a lot of pressure on them too, so they sort of respond to Barrick a little bit better than they do to us sometimes. But look, they should be clearing that backlog as we go into the next field season.
Our other questions from Ian. He asks, have you completed any ground geophysics, and if so, what and was it useful? Sorry.
Okay, so look, we've done a partial survey over the tenement using IP ground array, and we're currently undertaking a tenement-wide coverage of 25 by 25 metre IP ground array, and that seems to pick out intrusions and some of the structural elements not everything, but so that seems to work for us. Barrack are doing a similar thing across the border boundary. We're probably going to trial some ground mag as well. And as part of the sort of building up the scientific database, where once that's completed, we're going to do a whole geophysical review, using open available data outside, which is more broad space, but and looking at our IP and then seeing, what else might work in this region to help us identify the particularly the structural elements of the area.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. We've got another question here from Peter. He asks, how was the wet season for yourself, and how did it affect the mine as it is at the moment? So, how was it anyway?
It was wet. It was wet and hot. It gets very wet and hot out there. So, you saw in that image, we've mostly completed building a camp on site. The wet season hit proper about mid-early July, so field activity sort of completed there. You can't move rigs around and things like that. We had a small contingent on the camp for, looking after the camp and securing the area so the artisanal miners don't establish themselves here. People are all moving back now in next week, and then we should be able to get drill rigs again in mid-October, we're hoping. So we had some early, but that didn't affect the operations. But by early mid-July, we were sort of rained out. Okay.
Well, that's pretty much all the questions that we have for now. Is there any final comments that you want to say to the investors at the moment?
Oh, look, I think CHZ has had a very busy 12, 18 months. They've really only identified the mineralisation in mid-2020. Since then, we've been really focused on drilling out the bits of mineralisation we'd identified, Area A and Area D, and I think that'll deliver a very good result for the company and should underline a fair bit of value into the company. But there's a lot more to go. I think the prospectivity of the area, shown by some of our drilling and some of the stuff in the neighbours with Barrack, is significant. It's a very big anomalous system with some really interesting structural elements in areas where there's really big gold mines, really high value big gold mines. So I think there's a lot of work to go on the exploration and framing up the scale of this project, and I think we'll go through the technical studies to demonstrate the economics. And I think CHZ is in a fortunate position that they've identified something that will be a mine in the not too distant future. We'll be working hard to leverage ourselves and make sure we're there to do it or get the best result for shareholders.
Beautiful. We are having a few last minute questions come through. Are you happy to answer them, Andrew?
Yes.
Sorry. We have one from Jar again. He's asking, is COVID a worry in the camp, and are the team vaccinated?
Okay, so yeah, we haven't properly physically housed in the camp yet. We've been building it. Prior to that, we were in a house in a little village called Saria. We had about 20 or 30 people in that village, in that house we were renting there. When I went to site in April, May during the year, nobody was back. We have COVID protocols for testing and people coming and testing before they go on the road to the site and interaction. But the risk is that our guys are all housed in a small house. So if it goes in, they get infected, or if they take it to the local community, that's probably worse for us, I think. So we COVID back, AstraZeneca was available. They were a bit reluctant to take it, so I actually stood up and took the first one. So we've got most of our guys, our senior permanent guys, vaccinated at least with one. And I think they're all off site now, so hopefully they'll come back with their second jab. And because it's our responsibility to look after health and safety of our people.
Beautiful. No, good to hear. It's good to hear. Well, thank you for that. I think we might end it there. If anyone has any further questions, ask. I'm always available. and also Andrew is available. You can send him through a message. But I'd like to thank Chester for joining us on Port Jackson Securities webinar and presenting today. I found it very informative. I'm sure many of my clients are also very happy with how the presentation went. I'm Lachlan Callaghan from Forum Wealth, and thank you, Andrew. Is there anything else you would like to say? Or
no, thank you, Lachlan. Thank you for the opportunity. And look, my contact details are on the presentation on the website, so happy to take any inquiries.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you again. Once again, this is another Port Jackson webinar. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you all. Have a good day.